Hey everybody, how's it going? It's your boy Hockey here. We're getting started on the first Champions report of Pokemon Champions. I know I am a little bit late to the game and this is something everyone else is already doing, but I'm gonna try and take some time each week if I can, talk about the news that's happening in the game, talk about some of the updates, meta shifts. This one's not gonna be too much about the meta as we're wrapping up Regulation MA in the next 2 weeks, as this is probably just gonna be a little bit of a what happened this week, what we know, and maybe a little bit of what's to come. But if you guys like what you're watching and you like what you see, let me know, support me, you know, the whole ordeal, give me the like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. I'm going live at least once a week as well, so if you want to watch some games, I build teams, mess around, I like to think that I'm good, but I'm just gonna let my gameplay speak for itself. Anyways, let's just get into this. Let's take a look real quick. I want to get this out of the way because this is just everybody's talking about it right now. It's the last event. It was an awesome event. We saw some great teams in there. We also saw some really funky stuff. I think the biggest thing that everybody took away is obviously Wolfglick's Mega Steelix team. I don't think anybody even had Steelix remotely on their radar before this, and if you've watched anything in the last few days, you can see that it was not a fluke team that just Wolf was using. Like, that is doing well in the hands of good players when they try it. It's a solid team. But let's get to the big points out of the way here. We had Charizard win it, obviously, but then Charizard only was in 2 spots. It had 1st and 7th. That's not a bad performance at all. Just personally, I thought we were going to maybe see at least half of the top 8 be Charizard. Not complaining. I love the diversity. I've been playing this game since 2016, so for me, diversity is where I have the most fun and where I feel like the game is the healthiest, and there's clearly a lot of that in here. Frostlass is the highest used Mega. That's really interesting. I'm not sure that I would have suggested or even guessed that ahead of time, and it didn't have... I mean, it had, you know, it had a victory road result, had a couple of really big, like, grassroots results, but just wasn't something that I personally had heavy on my radar. I think Michael Zhang's version of the Frostlass team with that kind of dual weather option is really unique. I personally have also tested Michael Zhang's Arcanine, or I don't know if he was running Choice Scarf, but I've been testing the Rockhead with a Choice Scarf Arcanine, and that thing is crazy. So just, and that's not even something I was considering. Rockhead on Arcanine, like, why would you even do that? In what world? Like, why wouldn't you just run the Intimidate? Well, everybody's gotten King Gambit and everybody's got some sort of competitive or Defiant Mon. So it's really cool to see that an ability that's had 0 usage in the past land top 3 at a major regional. I mean, that's awesome. And then last thing I just want to note as we wrap up Regulation MA, in case we ever come back and visit and you guys are looking up MA content and trying to find out what was good, 7 of the 8 of these teams are sitting here with weather control, meaning 7 of the 8 players here rely on their ability to get their weather up, and it's all a variety of weather too. I mean, you see literally a mix of everything except for rain. Actually, that's a lie. You see William Brown running the rain team on the bottom. It's interesting. You've got such a diverse mix of all of these weathers, and typically when weather's been important, you know, back at least in recent years, you're looking at like Reg H, it was just rain existing, or even back in like early black and white days and stuff, it was like just sand or like snow in those contexts. So it's really cool to see that. All right, we've talked about this enough though, and I want to get into the chunk of the big news. So today is June 3rd, and I'm not sure if the news came out today or if I just found out today. We've got the abilities revealed for Mega-Raichu X and Mega-Raichu Y. And this is important to talk about too, because it's not just going to be something that some people are playing. This is going to be all over the place, at least in starting June 17th, probably through the 20th. And the reason for that is, I think that they're giving out I think like you get a Raichu for the mobile launch, and then like a bunch of like, you get both Mega Stones with it too. So you're gonna see a lot of this. And the ability it got, man, Electric Surge. What are we doing? All right, Miraidon V2. Let's take a look at what we're seeing here now that we know the stats and the ability and everything. The only thing we don't know for sure, but the available moveset, we don't know if maybe in the update they add an extra move to be available. That could be the case, it could not be the case. And so I'm gonna kind of just talk about things in that regard here. So none of this is 100% true besides the ability and the stats and a couple of other facts. But Mega-Raichu is going to be out, and it's going to be Electric Surge, meaning we're going to be dealing with terrains again. If you are any sort of VGC player that's existed since kind of the Sun and Moon days got started, or even if you've just been playing recently since post-pandemic, you're going to be very familiar with the concept of terrains. And I think that there's a reason that we're going to see terrains, and I'll talk about that later. But for now, we'll just get into Raichu. Raichu is a huge physical attacker. Not huge in the sense that it's going to do crazy numbers as opposed to anything else, but it's got fairly okay bulk, it's got some really hard hitting moves, and it's got a decent toolkit at its disposal. It's really fast. That 110 speed tier is going to be putting it above a lot of things that it's going to be wanting to get one-shots into. The big thing that we're going to see, this is going to threaten every Charizard in the game. There is no circumstance where a Charizard is going to feel comfortable sitting in front of a Volt Tackle, and even a lot of switch-ins. On the other hand of that, with Raichu existing, you might see ground types continue to stay. Ground types have been all over the place right now and dominating. We also have other things just utilizing ground type moves. This isn't to say that Mega-Raichu isn't going to be completely invulnerable to things just stepping into the format from a bird's eye view, but when we get into the details is where you're going to kind of see why Mega-Raichu X is going to be tantalizing to a lot of new players, and probably just a lot of people in general who like that hyper offensive style. 135 base attack. Volt Tackle is what I've highlighted here. The biggest one I wanted to highlight though is your speed tier next to its ability to click Nuzzle. Nuzzle, as you can see here, has got a 100% chance to paralyze the target. It's weak, but you're a physical attacker, so you're going to be getting a good chunk of damage out of this. I mean, it is going to feel like you have the ability to fake out in a certain regard against some Pokemon, and also paralyze them within the same turn. You might even get the paralysis, which makes it feel like a fake out at all. But I do think that Nuzzle's going to be everywhere. I do think that you're probably still going to see some kind of, at least with the Mega-Raichu X variants, you're probably going to see some kind of Volt Tackle. You're going to maybe see Nuzzle if it's running a little bit supportive. I'm not sure that that will be on every set, but I just thought it was important to highlight. But you're going to see Volt Tackle, you're going to see some kind of coverage move. It gets access to some weird ones and some weirdly inaccurate ones. There's not a lot of moves that it really likes to run that have zero drawback, but I think when you're running a hyper offensive mon that's outputting this kind of damage, you're probably not too concerned about some of the drawbacks. So like Iron Tail's gonna have a chance to miss. You've got some coverage moves, and like, hang on, let's find out real quick. Does this thing learn Brick Break? Probably not. Probably doesn't learn Brick Break. Maybe it gets it. Oh, the other big one I wanted to highlight was this thing learns Knockoff. So you are going to have a lot of coverage into your opposing ghost types, and Sinistcha's gonna now be threatened to not have a completely safe switch. Maybe it doesn't keep Knockoff. There's a reality that it gets dropped, but I'm pretty certain that that thing's gonna have Knockoff after the update. That's kind of the thing, is now we're in a live service era where we don't know if in between regulations certain mons are gonna lose access to moves or gain access to moves. They really could fundamentally do any of that. That's the beauty of the live service. Pretty much all I wanted to cover when it comes to Mega-Raichu X. I think that it's going to be really threatening in certain contexts. I don't think that it is going to do a lot when it comes to enabling its teammates like a lot of people are talking about. And I'm not going to talk about Electric Surge too much right now, because Mega-Raichu being revealed to have Electric Surge makes me feel some pretty strong implications about what Regulation MB is going to be focused on. I'll get to that in a second, but it's going to cover all of the terrains, because to be honest with you, I think that Electric Surge being revealed implies that Regulation MB is going to be the chance to introduce terrain play to us. So here's Mega-Raichu Y. I wanted to get to this guy and talk about a couple of things. I feel like a lot of people are completely disregarding it for getting no guard. That's revealed. Mega-Raichu's ability was revealed to be no guard. We have a couple of Megas with no guard already, or at least Halucha. It's really not gonna tickle a lot of people's brain at the start. This is where we get into speculative stuff too, because I'm not certain that this thing is going to have Zap Cannon come the update time, because I do think conceptually, if you're looking at running Mega-Raichu, this is kind of why I wanted to bring up Nuzzle, was because if you're gonna choose the two, I've seen a lot of people already talk about this, even just today. They're really hyping on the Nuzzle, they're really hyping on the Electric Surge, and I wanted to talk about the underdog here, because look at that special attack stat, 160. Do you guys 160 and 130 base speed? This thing is an electric type Flutter Mane that does not miss nuclear bombs. Like, you can just let this thing rip and you would probably be fine. So a big thing I've been seeing and kind of considering within myself is, like, obviously it's not very bulky on the defense end, but maybe with some of the changes that are coming, an Incineroar or Intimidate opportunity becomes a little bit more viable, and we can start working around that. But realistically, could you not just like max speed, max HP, and just let this thing try and sit as much as it can? Use almost like a support version of this thing. It's still gonna get Encore, it's still gonna get Fake Out, so you're gonna have like quite a kit for yourself. And if you do invest in bulk that people aren't prepared around, you could even try and run Endeavor, try and live on like 17 HP and then just like knock something down that you don't have the ability to damage. But I mean, fighting type moves are already destroying this format. I do think just off of rip, this might be a reason why King Gambit stops existing. Fully 100% accurate, fast focus blasts like that, what do you even do? Because like, fundamentally, you could just run this next to a Sneasler and just work around some double target and get that going. I'm not sure if that would be the ideal way to handle anything, but I think it's important to mention. I feel like we've talked about these guys long enough. The big thing I wanted to talk about that I don't really see or hear a lot of other people talking about right now is what the reveal of Mega-Raichu X and Mega-Raichu Y kind of implies for Regulation MB. Now, this is going to be going off of a ton of speculative stuff and really just my own take. So if you guys want to take this and just throw the rest of the video out, thanks. I appreciate you checking in. That's the rest of the actual news that's out. But now I want to talk about this. So with Electric Surge being brought in, I guess let's dial back a step. The intention of the Pokemon Company with Pokemon Champions is to simultaneously preserve the turn-based battles forever, as we know, but also it's very clearly to ease new players in. This conversation's been had a million times, but they're easing new players in with the limited Pokemon pool and the limit of some super complicated move situations, and then the limited items is really the biggest one. There's also a couple of mons like they just didn't have Dondozo and Tatsugiri in here, which is, I don't know. I love those guys, but not sure if removing them adds anything. My point here is, it seems like their intention is to incrementally introduce mechanics for the game. Now, we've been playing Regulation MA with the items and the mons that we've had for 2 months now, and I do think people, as fun and diverse as Regulation MA is, I do think some people are getting tired. And I do think that that's kind of even obvious in just straight up the player count. If you go on right now and you just like ladder an account from like Pokeball tier right now to try and get to like champion rank, for example, there is such a huge MMR gap or rating gap between like freshly entering Master Ball and competing for champion rank. And I know that gap should be pretty large for how many players are involved in the game right now, but it's literally like an 800 point rating gap. Like, you could enter Master Ball tier at 16 to 17 and champion rank is like 25 right now. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying I think that that goes to show that the top players who are still playing the game are just going to keep farming, and you've kind of lost this first intrigue base of the game. So I think they're going to introduce a lot of mechanics. Also, mobile's going to come out, so they're going to add some stuff. But with that being said, I think that the next introduction here, with all of the basic items and the simplest kind of gimmick to add, because conceptually, if you've been playing the game for years, you can understand that like Z moves and Mega Evolution are fundamentally the simplest core concepts as far as gimmicks go. They're the easiest to kind of just understand. I think Mega Evolution is so familiar to so many just childhood playthroughs that that is something that just inherently, boom, you understand. I can Mega Evolve my guy for a game, and I get boost on it. It's just very intrinsic. The next thing to introduce that would be a little bit simple is just kind of passive states of the game that the player has control over, I feel like. What better way to introduce that than with terrains? Terrains have been the most fundamental mechanic for VGC for maybe the last like 6 to 7 years, maybe even a little bit more than that, regardless of the gimmick that's existed. In Dynamax, it was important. The original days of Mega Evolution with Z moves in the Alola region, when they were introduced, it was incredibly important. Through Sword and Shield, like I said, that's Dynamax. And then even Scarlet and Violet, terrain was incredibly important, especially once you got into higher power level formats. Terrains were necessary to be able to play the game you want. They're fundamentally not that complicated. There's 4. all of them introduce a very simple thing. They boost the attack. They function like weathers. Okay, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. It is the next step to introduce that is not too complicated, because you can introduce a bunch of items right now, and I do think they're going to introduce items, i.e. if they do bring terrains in the game, I think that we're going to see the seeds, we're going to see Rillaboom, we're going to see Indeedee come back, we're going to see all of those things that come with terrains come with them. So right now we don't have Indeedee, right now we don't have Rillaboom. I think that stuff was, hi kitty, you want to say hi? Okay, so I think that if you're going to just introduce a singular terrain, that doesn't really make sense for helping new players understand. That just means that there's going to be one type with a huge advantage that the rest don't. So because of that, I think we're going to see seeds return. I think that weather's not going to be going away, but I do think it's going to be a little bit less impactful, because just over the history of Pokemon, or recent history of Pokemon, weather has not been as important as terrain has been. Granted, it might be a lower power level. I do not suspect to see any legendaries be introduced. I think the power level is going to stay a little bit low. And I think if all of this is true, if the terrains do return, the resurgence of Trick Room is going to be strong. And it is going to be a hard Trick Room resurgence. Depends on what items are introduced. I would love to see Rocky Helmet come back. Covert Cloak, I think, is one where I think that enough of the players understand Fake Out and secondary effects, with Rock Slide being so prevalent and just all of the things that can happen to you with a secondary effect in this game right now. I do think the concept of Covert Cloak would not be too hard on new players, but that's all speculative that I have nothing to base on. The real meat of this is we're seeing terrains come back. I mean, you can come back to this video in 14 days and tell me I was wrong and comment how wrong I was, but I'm convinced that we're going to see, at the very least, Rillaboom and Indeedee return to the format. I think that it would be cool if, maybe we got, a Wheezing, something to turn the abilities off. The only issue is if you introduce Wheezing, I think you have to introduce the ability shield at the same time, and I don't think a lot of players are ready for ability shield. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys hope to see in the Regulation MB. I'm very excited. I've been playing a ton of Reg MA the whole time, and I love it. It's fun, but I just don't feel like it is the right format for my team building. I love sustain squads and that kind of thing, and it's just such a high offense format. But maybe with some of these terrains coming back, that can change and we can get some different things. Thank you guys for watching though. Go ahead and let me know what you guys would like to see for the next one. Catch a stream next week while we try and hop on some games if you can. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good week.